Alright guys, welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to Gaming Compute. Here on this podcast, we talk quite often about side hustles, jobs, careers, finances, the economy, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about protecting goals, protecting dreams. It's something I'm kind of noticing that I am starting to do more, for my own benefit. So what I mean by that is, usually when I start doing something that I'm really pumped up about, I will tell a lot of different people, even the ones who I know don't really have my best intentions at heart, don't really, seem like they want me to do well or want me to reach my goals. Like, for example, sometimes I'm living with people who don't want me to move, and so they'll make it kind of like, oh, you don't want to take that opportunity, or you don't want to do that, then you'll have to move, or like people who just want to focus on the negative side of stuff, who, I'll tell them something and they'll be like, oh, like, do you really know what you're doing? Like, they try to like challenge about it and make it seem like, oh, well, you don't really know what you're doing yet. Or people who just kind of make it sound like they don't think it's really gonna work out, so they're kind of like, why would you do that? Or like reasons why I wouldn't like that. I've had it come from multiple different angles, where even when I was leaving from my old job to come to the current job that I'm at now, one of my leads, not a lead that I worked very closely with at that time, but I had initially when I was like still in a practicum, but she was like, kind of crossing my boundaries a bit, and it was during work, and I was taking like, I can't remember if it was a lunch break or just like a break, and I was like, she was like, oh, well, let me tell you, like, if you want, I can tell you all the things that you're not going to like about it if you go and take this other job. And I was kind of just like, I don't really want to hear anything negative about, the new job when I haven't done it yet. And, she's like, well, you're going to hate the driving. I hated driving, and I hate the driving, and, like, you're not going to like it, and you're going to be miserable. And like, this was like over 2 years ago now, so I don't recall exactly what she was saying, but she was just kind of like, you're not gonna like it. And I was just thinking in my mind, well, that's negative, you just literally said negative things when I just was trying to tell you I don't really want to hear something negative. And so I got up, and I remember I left and I went to the break room, and I was kind of like, just like, just doing my own thing, like finishing up my break or lunch or whatever I was doing. And then later on I came back to my desk after not too long, but after some time, and I don't know if it was like by text or call or when I was hanging out with some work friends shortly after or whatever. I can't remember the exact way that day went, but I do remember one of my friends being like, yeah, like, you handled that really well. I liked how you set boundaries. And then when she was like crossing your boundaries, you just kind of like left. And I was like, oh, like somebody else like totally saw me just do that. But I was kind of like, yeah, like, I don't really need the negativity. And so, yeah, when it comes to protecting certain things, that's kind of the type of people I've kind of identified in my life that, maybe they don't really just like ask me questions about like I don't mind people asking questions, or like if they have experience telling me kind of like what to look out for and stuff. Let me see. So yeah, I don't really mind people telling me kind of like what, like I don't really mind them telling me like what to like their experiences, but like kind of like what to look out for, like insider information, like not like chisme type of stuff, but like stuff that like I would never know, stuff to consider, like they're kind of looking out for me and like telling me stuff that they think I would need to know, in a beneficial way. And so I was a little thinking about that today when I was thinking about, kind of reflecting on the past couple weeks since I've started this journey of, getting into a new career, that I have been getting some pushback, which is weird, and the people it came from, so far it was surprising, like one or two people, and then otherwise all the other people are very dear and trusted friends in the first place, who I regularly connect with, who they reach out when we haven't spent a lot of time together for a while, and they try to like reach out and like keep in touch and make plans and stuff. And so I get pretty comfortable like expressing things to them. So I recently last week told a lot of them what I'm doing, and then this week still kind of explained it to a couple people too. So yeah, I would I've just been trying to get better with that. It is tempting to kind of want to involve everybody in my life in every way, but I'm kind of noticing more and more, being back at my family's house and falling into some social patterns, just realizing like, oh, that's right, I don't really talk to my family like I talk to my friends. Like usually when I see my friends, it's like I'm just like filling them all in. Like my San Diego friends, it's like usually when I see them, I'm really willing to catch up about almost anything under the sun. And then I notice with my family, it's like, well, I don't talk to them about who I date or where I go or who I see or what I'm doing. It's like, I don't tell them details about all my friends. I don't really take a lot of selfies and post them online. I don't really, share my, podcasting with them or like anything. And so I was a little, it's just a little, maybe not a trick, but something I'm learning, is, kind of like protecting goals, when you have people you can celebrate things with in life that'll just tell it to you for real like it is, like the way I see it right now is like my backup is I can come back to this job, but I'm willing to kind of take this leap out because it's a quick path to get to potentially even get better at what I'm doing now, and to scale up some of my other projects. I mean, I really can see that, going in this other direction, I would be more professionally trained towards a lot of the stuff that I'm kind of like doing as like side hustles in the first place. And so it is like beneficial on those levels too. I can really see the benefit in it. But I feel like a lot of the pushback I've gotten from people is like, oh, like, is it really gonna pay what you think, or are you gonna be good at it, or why would you want to leave? Like the field I'm in is kind of like, I wouldn't really call it prestigious necessarily, but you get a lot of like people respect it, people respect working in the healthcare field, working in like mental health. People respect that. Just like if you're a nurse, people respect that. If you're in the military, people respect that. If you're a firefighter, people respect that. Like people, there's certain jobs where like you're helping a lot of people and people respect that. So to come out of that field and go into something that's looked at not as respectful, but kind of looked at more from a perspective of like, entrepreneurship and, like capitalism, at its finest, learning how to contribute to the capitalist system. I mean, that's not really looked upon super highly unless you're like helping people make money, or giving people like tricks of like, how to like look at different things. And so that's kind of something I'm noticing. Like, the more I'm coming across, career related things, the more I'm starting to notice, not everybody who wants, updates on my life is really someone that I feel a need to share with. I've noticed, like, there's people that I know that, want updates on my life just to kind of, like they kind of assume I'm doing certain stuff or not doing certain stuff just by what they do or don't know about me, if that makes sense. Like, I'll use an example from a really, really, really long time ago, probably like 12 years ago or something. I had a friend that wasn't really, very gossipy friend, wasn't really ever in regular touch with me. Like, yeah, we were in touch and stuff, but we didn't really talk at that time, when I was like just finished with grad school, and I ended up in a space with that person and some church friends, and they were saying, like, one other person, said, while that person was there, like, oh, so like a comment kind of like, oh, so like, when are you gonna start working? I heard that you don't have a job, like, that must be nice. And people didn't realize, in psychology, if you don't have, clinical training, and you're coming only from a research background and just graduated from a university, and that was when the economy had just crashed, like, it's not like the jobs were just flowing, and I was applying, I was interviewing, but I don't think I was really going too far of anywhere, in all honesty. And so I use that example because, I guess that person had been like gossiping, telling those friends whose house I was at for this, church thing, that I hadn't been working, and I guess that those friends were coming up and like trying to catch up with me with that gossip that they had learned about me. And I was like, well, actually, I have like 3 jobs, Like I was doing computer classes for these 2 like elderly sites, and I was doing just web design for this other person, and I was tutoring. But it was all just like jobs where it was like hours here, hours there, but nothing like consistent all the time. Like the hours would fluctuate and everything. And then, the friend who had been like spreading all that information was kind of like, oh, like I didn't know you were working at all. And it's like, yeah, well, you didn't ask me. You went by what you thought you knew. And like some people just kind of have that kind of mindset, and to me it's like, I understand that you think that what you see on the surface is kind of like what you get, but I don't really share a lot on social media or anything, so it leaves it so that people actually have to talk to me if they want to know what I'm doing. They have to actually be talking to me, or else they're not going to just get updates about my life. And I do that on purpose. Just part of it's a little bit of paranoia. I mentioned about the church type of setting I was raised in and all the judgmental people. I mean, those people aren't completely out of my life, and now that I'm back in LA right now, they're a lot more readily available than I'd like that type of setting to be. But as much as I appreciate them, they're they're not people that I want to completely write off, but there's just ways that I have to work around sharing with them. And when it comes to career related things, education related things, I don't really feel a desire to really share with them. Because I don't really need that kind of negative mindset in my head, or that negative experience in my life. They're not really like bad people. They're not like toxic people necessarily. I wouldn't say that. It's just, this type of person that kind of like maybe just doesn't realize how they're approaching, another person's life choices. I think, they don't really think about, how can I help this person through their journey, or how can I, encourage them, or what do I see in them that might, make them good at this, or how can I see that like they might actually enjoy this. And especially when it's like in my situation, when I'm coming out of a job that I actually don't like, getting a pay rate that's not good currently. Been talking to people in the company to try to, not everybody, I'm not just like blabbing around, but like I'm talking to the appropriate people in the company, like HR and a previous director and my current supervisor and director, and like just about options I might have with things. And there seems to be really no real wiggle room with a lot of stuff. It's even complex to try to get my schedule adjusted so that I can move into a different type of setting. So I was wanting to slowly transition and slowly still work at this job while slowly starting another, like part-time, both remote, but it doesn't look like that's the structure of the new setting I'm going into, because I have to be a full-time intern for a few months. And so I'm trying to understand a lot about this new field. I'm trying to immerse myself in it, And I'm kind of just doing this all by myself, and I just am learning a lot about the process of it, that it does help to kind of not have a lot of negative feedback about it. And I don't mind talking to people about what makes them nervous about the type of work either that I do now or what I'm trying to get into doing. But like, sometimes it's like people take a weird approach to stuff where it's kind of like, I know they're looking out, but at the same time, it's kind of like not really how I need them to look out, and, I'm not going to completely write somebody off for something like that, but it's just like, I don't have to share that part of my life. I have other people who kind of, when we interact about certain ideas, we can kind of talk things through in a certain way that kind of is more my style of kind of like connecting with people. I know a lot of people in San Diego, most of my friends down there, they're very my vibe of like conversation. We can talk about all kinds of topics pretty openly, and like the only part I don't like about it, in all honesty, which isn't all the time, but the only part I find challenging is like the amount that we kind of hang out with like bars and like parties and stuff, because sometimes I just want to sit over a dinner or like a coffee and just like actually have like a conversation, and or like at the park or at the beach, and not really be like talking and like like just having like a negative experience with the conversation. But yeah, I feel, good about that decision. Like slowly letting people in, I think, is cool. And just kind of recognizing kind of the feedback or the energy that I don't really require right now. Like, I'm not completely writing off all the ideas that I hear that I don't want to hear. I'm just, putting them in a different vault for now, and I'll reconsider later certain things like, like certain kind of challenging questions that I got from people, like if I know the company's mottos, or like if I'm strong if with my research background and stuff, and like if I really know what the pay structure looks like and all that kind of stuff. Like, some of this stuff, I mean, I won't be able to know until I'm actually there, but yeah, overall, I mean, I've kind of liked talking to people about it, but like, I think, a lot of my friends want me to succeed, and some of my family members too. Some of my family members kind of don't want me to live in San Diego or have my life there and doing my own thing. They'd rather have me move wherever they live. I have family all over the place, but I'm just saying that's kind of the reality of things. But yeah, like, I try not to, I'm trying right now to do things differently and not really have a lot of, that kind of negative energy, I just don't find it necessary. Like, I went another route completely that had nothing to do with what I'm doing right now too much. I went the school route. I did the grad school, all the typical like schooling, and even attempted, a doctorate for a while. And, I could kind of tell, like, when I was in the doctoral program, that's when I could kind of, like, when I'm honest with myself, I can kind of tell, there was something about me that wasn't really wanting to push through to it, because it just wasn't coming from an authentic place. Like, I like the idea of working in mental health and being in mental health, but actually, like, having a private practice, that wasn't really something that I really wanted to do, or be a professor. It was like, yeah, I want to try and like dabble and like, work in therapy for a while and like a clinical role, maybe go into like clinical research. That was kind of more what I was thinking. But, I'm still doing something that I'm going into something that's going to have a lot of a research background, just a different form of doing the research. It might be a quicker process of research, a lot of strategy, and just learning about kind of like methods that work in a changing environment, but yeah, I mean, I'm happy about it. I'm happy about my choices here. It's just, I think that's an important thing to kind of keep in mind is, protecting those goals, especially when it's early. Like I'm mentioning, I'm like two weeks in to the hardcore part of stuff. And so, I don't need negativity right away. I mean, there was a part of me that wasn't going to say anything to anybody. And then I just felt like, it was way too isolating, and I kind of wanted to like share something I was getting really passionate into. And so I decided to share it with some people. And I kind of knew, like, I'm not surprised. I kind of knew that certain people that I was sharing things with, like, I kind of knew kind of how it was going to be with them. Most of my close friends, I definitely knew that, like, they're always supportive. They kind of know how I think. They know how I act. They know how I just, like, move, like, as slow as a snail on just about every kind of idea. And then when I kind of hit on something that really, like, sparks an interest, I'll jump into it and start just, like, doing it. And I have all my own little, like, strategies and stuff like that I'm doing. And, I mean, they're, they know. They know how I am. And that I like to work, and that I like to be up early, and that I have problems with my sleep, and that, they know all kinds of things about me. And they even know, most of them, I think, know how I feel about my current job, and how even when I first started this job, I was like, it's a pay bump, and, it's something different, and it's remote, and it's cool for now. It's getting me my needs met in the ways that I need for now, during the Rona, and, coming into this new phase of things in 2022, which, by the way, is already gonna be kind of almost over soon, but in 2022, and I'm just trying to basically do something that pays well enough that I can live the way I want to live, and be able to kind of hang with my friends when I feel like it, and do what I want when I feel like it, go where I want when I feel like it, be you know, just be, trying something new. Like, I'm ready for something different. I'm getting so burned out, from what I'm doing, that, it's been a while since something has actually, interested me, as far as career paths. Just for me right now, I just don't want to work with illnesses all day. That's mostly what it is. I don't want to work with people's mental pain, emotional pain, all day long. Like, it's just becoming too much of a hassle for me, honestly, where I don't have all the energy I want for family, for friends, for dating, for just, being out in the community and interacting and, doing stuff. I'm noticing it's, affecting me negatively socially, as well as not being able to afford to live where I want, and not being able to afford stuff that is coming up that I know I definitely need. I'm gonna need another car eventually, and I need to have an apartment that I can afford to myself, and I'd like to have a 40-hour work week that primarily pays things. Like I was telling my friends, just kind of recapping with some of them who I've known a while now, and they were like, I was like, yeah, basically I was able to take such low pay for so long before the Rona, because I had all these side hustles. I was doing side hustles that actually worked for me. I mean, I've described them a lot on this podcast, but the methods I was using back then, they really worked very well for me, and I created a system with it. And, while my 9-to-5 was kind of paying the regular bills, the side hustles allowed me to save, to party, to pay some of my student loans, to take little trips and stuff like that. I could do extra stuff even though my pay was so freaking low. I made enough on the side just to kind of do what I wanted to do, because it was fun for me. And so having that kind of a lifestyle to me was really worth it. And a lot of people I know kind of know the way that I live, where, I think initially one thing was I was always assuming, okay, I'm going to get one job that I'm going to have forever and keep it forever and never change jobs and be completely just staying in the same work. And I always did have a fear that I would get to this kind of stage that I'm at now. That's kind of a fear that I've always had, that what's going to happen when I start if I ever get a job where I consistently wake up in the morning and just don't want to do it. That was always one of my biggest fears. I remember even growing up, I was like, I don't even know what kind of job I want to do, but I know I don't want to wake up and feel the same way I feel when I go to school or high school or whatever. I don't want to wake up and just feel I don't want to really do this, but I have to because I'm pushing to the next goal. But with my job, there is no next goal even. The goals basically are to help our clients reach our goals, but it's hard to really make goals with this kind of company. There's only so many higher positions. Above my position, there's maybe 4 positions. And so you really can't go much higher than four different types of work. And all of those people who got those roles moved up within a 2-year period, because the company's not even that old. So yeah, I mean, people have wanted it and they've wanted to move up, but I don't really see myself taking on more stress for very little more money. Like, I'd rather just not do that, and that's one thing where I'm like, well, I do want to be in a field where I can kind of like progress to like different roles, and within like a year or two, have options to go up to different stages. We don't even really have those options in my current job. And like I mentioned, the pay is like so much lower. It's like $8 an hour lower than what my previous job was making. What my previous job is now offering. If I were to come back to my previous job, they would offer me $8 more an hour. And that's not even enough to really live off of. In San Diego, I'd be needing to make about $15 more an hour just to be able to afford an apartment at about a third of my income. So yeah, so that's kind of how things are with this right now. And so I'm gonna post this. Hopefully it helps, and thanks for listening.